broadcasting from the Unshackled studios in Melbourne. This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net. Now here's Tim Wilms.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this special midweek WilmsFront featured interview show on this Wednesday, the 3rd of May, 2023. We are broadcasting to the Unshackled's YouTube channel, the Tim Wilms D Live and WilmsFront Odyssey channel. Hello to everyone in the chat. It is 8:30 p.m. here in Melbourne, Victoria, where we had many political prisoners during our COVID lockdowns. Pastor Paul Forlong, Nick Patterson and Monica Schmidt, to name some. But my guest tonight has probably been treated even more appallingly than them. I recorded this interview this time on Sunday evening, which I'll play for you now, and I'll be back live with you at the end.
This is WilmsFront, brought to you by the Unshackled.net.
Ever since the Australian COVID lockdowns began, the mainstream media has hyped up the danger to community safety and national security posed by the so-called sovereign citizens movement, whom their definition includes everyone from freedom activists to those who believe the Australian government is illegitimate and is behaving illegally. You may remember in August 2021, the mainstream media gleefully reported about a joint police task force busting an alleged plot to overthrow the Australian government.
Counter-terrorism police have uncovered an alleged nationwide plot to remove the Australian government. Today, Perth reporter Kelly Hayward has more. Kelly, good morning. How far has the group gone?
Good morning, Alex. Well, far enough that it prompted a national sting by the Australian Federal Police. The group is accused of impersonating the boss of the Australian Federal Police and planning to overthrow the government. Now, this plot was uncovered. The investigation started when a video started circulating online claiming to show the Australian Federal Police Commissioner, Reece Kershaw, calling for the federal government to be overthrown. Detectives also allege a Perth man was involved, and he claimed to be an AFP official while trying to obtain ID badges from a commercial business. But this alleged plot stretched across the entire country, with counter-terror police executing a web of warrants in 3 Queensland cities, in Brisbane, Cairns, Townsville, before raiding 2 Perth properties. Alex.
All right, Kelly, thank you.
And that was a report from August. And in September, the Australian Federal Police announced in a media release that a South Australian woman had been charged with impersonating a Commonwealth public official and importing fake Australian Federal Police badges into Australia, as they said, as part of an ongoing Queensland Joint Counter-Terrorism Team investigation. Now, was this a legitimate coup attempt that the Australian Federal Police needed to bust and lock away the plotters to keep our nation safe? Well, tonight I'll ask that South Australian woman who was mentioned in that statement, who was arrested, detained for 6 months and charged, Teresa van Lieshout, who has been a perennial candidate in state and federal elections for nearly 20 years. She was a teacher before her life as a political activist. She is a West Australian native, but has lived in Victoria and most recently, of course, South Australia, where she was arrested and detained. Teresa, welcome to WilmsFront.
Thanks, Tim.
I first met you outside Greg Hunt's office in Somerville in his Flinders electorate. To refresh everyone's memory, he was the health minister during the COVID pandemic. You planned to declare yourself the Governor General that day. Your plan didn't come to fruition, but you weren't arrested by police, but you would have been put on the Fed's radar. How could you think that you could declare yourself the Governor General? Under what authority?
Well, the Australian people have been suffering for a long time. I want your viewers to know that I am an Australian-born qualified teacher for 27 years. I decided to do it after many, many months of thinking and prayer and under God Almighty, the Bible, under the authority of the Constitution Act 1900, and also by consent of the people present that day when we gave speeches. I invited a list of people to speak that afternoon, and that was about 50 people there plus 40 Victorian police officers, so there were no objections. And since then, I issued arrest warrants for the state lockdown politicians and some federal politicians. It's because the only reason why I made that declaration is because under the Federal Police Act 1979, Section 3A, it's the Governor-General that appoints commissioners of police. So I appointed commissioners in each state, Australian state, to help us get the lockdown politicians arrested and jailed. I also ordered badges and federal police badges, and they were very good quality badges, but we had a few months of planning. There was thousands of people across the country who were interested in helping us get them arrested, so that was very good. Those arrest warrant for lockdown politicians videos have got a 99% public approval rate. They have about more than 60,000 views on YouTube and BitChute, and they're still circulating on the internet. So it's going to take a big effort from the people and the police over the next coming years to actually enact those arrest warrants. They were made under the Crimes Act 1914, Section 3Z, where the people have the power to arrest without warrant, 3Z, and 3WA, where the police have the power to arrest without warrant, and also they have the power to arrest with warrant. So the objective is the rhetoric and the objective has always been to get the lockdown politicians arrested and jailed. They deserve to be jailed for their genocidal factors towards the Australian people for the last 100 years. I was after that in late July, after about 3 or 4 months of working towards this goal with the people of this country, I was arrested at the end of July of 2021 for impersonating a Commonwealth government official and prohibitive imports. Now, my claim is, and with my lawyer, my claim is that I wasn't impersonating anyone, that we were trying to create a new government. And
under what authority? You didn't answer my original question. How can you declare yourself Governor General? Under what authority?
Okay, I told you that I did it under God Almighty, the Bible, and I did it under the Constitution Act 1900 and by consent of the people present at speeches that day. And out of listening to the people's duress over the last 20 years or 30 years and the crimes that the politicians have committed over the past century, I just felt that something needed to be done. Something needed to be done to try to get these lockdown politicians arrested and jailed. Now, people can go out and protest all they want, but unfortunately, protesting, it doesn't work in changing government policy and stopping these criminals in our parliaments. What protesting does is it helps the people get together and support each other, and that's very good. But they really need to be arrested and jailed in order to stop them. So the public can either work and support my work and other people's work in trying to get them arrested and jailed, or they can go if they go out in protests in public, they should go to the politician's office and they should demand the police arrest them. As it is going out in public like that, there's wandering around in the streets and there's no action, there's no real objective other than to continue to try to get the public to turn against the government, which is the protests in France. If we have a look at the recent weeks and weeks of protests, where literally millions of French people have protested against pension increases by their politicians. Well, that didn't stop them, did it? Protesting doesn't stop the politicians harming the people. It doesn't stop the globalists harming the people. And what needs to happen is they need to be arrested and jailed. I'm talking about the globalists across the world. And these people need to be arrested and jailed to stop them, the globalists and their globalist politicians. And that's what I'll continue to work towards over the coming years.
So the result of yours and your associates' plan was that many of you were arrested, and you were arrested and jailed for 6 months. You were charged with, they didn't charge you with treason or sedition. It was impersonating a Commonwealth public official. So your strategy there, it got you 6 months jail without even, you still haven't been faced trial.
Well, I was jailed for 7.5 months, and I was put on home detention for a further 8.5 months after that. And I was psychiatrically drugged for 12 months as well, which I consider to be torture, assault, and attempted murder. So they came after me, and they came after some of the other Australians that were helping with this objective. And a West Australian man, Marcus Jenkins, he's been acquitted in Western Australia of similar charges that came against me. So yeah, rather their federal police, rather than those politicians' federal police, rather than help us arrest and jail the lockdown politicians, they came after us, and they shouldn't have done that, because it's just causing more harm to the people of this country. They've made me suffer a lot. They want that I've got censorship of bail conditions censored. I can't upload videos to social media. I'm restricted in what I can speak about. I'm allowed to be interviewed, so that's fine. But they've overkill in regards to me. I don't have a huge, massive following on social media. I've been interviewed by the corporate media over the years, so I'm relatively well known. I've got a Wikipedia account. I have had media.
I can show that here. So not many political activists have Wikipedia pages. Obviously, yours is not very. You wouldn't consider yours accurate.
It's not very accurate. You're right there, Tim. It's not a very accurate write-up about my life. I've got a political party. I've been going in federal elections, as you said, more than the last 10 years with public videos and media coverage. But before that, when I worked as a teacher, I worked as a high school teacher for 20 years and primary school teacher for 20 years. When I started getting political, that's when they stopped me teaching and locked me up. They locked me up before in 2015 when I tried to get the fine system abolished. So my political work is on voterrightsparty.com, and I've been very my political views have been published for many years, and my political work is ongoing for many years. So it's really, I've been persecuted politically, and which I'm entitled to under the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights to pursue my political vision and goals and work. And they've just gone overboard with what they've done to me. I've got a district court trial pending still, so they're likely to try to get me locked up for longer with the charges. But I'm hoping to get acquitted. My lawyer is confident of getting acquitted, and then I'm going to sue the Commonwealth for damages.
So how many of you were arrested and charged with in total? Because this is the AFP statement that they issued with the Perth arrest. Because I remember it went viral at the time. This video, they claimed it was someone impersonating the AFP commissioner, Reece Kershaw.
No, that's not true. We weren't impersonating Reece Kershaw. We had new commissioners that were helping with the objectives. So that was a false claim that went around. There was a lot of Zoom meetings that were being conducted by the commissioners that I appointed under the Federal Police Act 1979, and they were getting thousands of people supporting them. It was
that under the power of you as Governor General appointing those commissioners?
Under the Federal Police Act 1979, it's the Governor General who appoints commissioners of police. So I can guarantee you David Hurley didn't appoint the Commissioner of Police that they use, that Reece Kershaw is being appointed by the politicians. But that was the only advantage, and I've suffered as a result of that. I could have issued those arrest warrant videos without, I could have made those arrest warrant videos without claiming to be the Governor-General. I wish I'd done that now, because that's the only technicality they can try to get me on, even though my lawyer says, well, I'm giving speeches and I'm trying to create a new government, so I'm not impersonating anybody. And there were 3 Queensland men, and they were arrested. There was a West Australian man arrested, but I think the Queensland men turned against me, and they had given statements against me to the federal police. So they may even be calling them as witnesses against me. But the man in Western Australia, Marcus Jensen, he got acquitted in the Magistrates Court, and that's good news for me as well.
And do you know if the Queensland men were charged, or they had the charges dropped in exchange for?
I know that they got arrested, but I've got a feeling that they had the charges dropped in exchange for testifying against me. So that'll come out in the district court trial. There's going to be a jury and a district court trial. We're hoping to get the charges dropped, or there for it to be an acquittal under political rights and free speech and communication. And yeah, so we just have to, it's not going to be for another year probably for that trial. But the actual Commonwealth public officials that are prosecuting me, I want them jailed. I think that they don't have a right to waste millions of dollars of public money. The West Australian government did it as well. We've wasted millions of dollars of public money jailing me for 42 days over my Will Clan video, fighting to have the fine system abolished. And the Commonwealth is doing the same thing. And those government Department of Public Prosecution, Commonwealth Department of Public Prosecution, they should be jailed for doing this to me. And the federal police involved, they should be jailed for doing this to me as well, because they're just wasting millions of dollars of public money, and it's causing further harm to me and the public.
Well, I can pretty much guarantee that's not going to happen. It's been pretty clear as this COVID pandemic and the associated tyranny that came with it is just that the politicians, the police, they've got away with everything. Here in Victoria, Dan Andrews got re-elected. I mean, some would argue that you've run repeatedly and haven't succeeded. So this is like the Australian people, through repeated elections, they've still voted for the parties that have approved this. So I don't see that there's going to be any sort of Nuremberg 2.0 COVID justice. I mean, it's call me.
The people and the public has to fight with me for these arrests to take place. It's going to take many years.
They're clearly not at the moment.
Well, there are people that want them arrested and jailed. There are people.
I know there are, but not many, it seems, if they kept getting voted back.
Just in the time that we were working on that objective, which was only 4 or 5 months, there were thousands of Australians across the country who were interested in helping get these politicians arrested. Now, it's going to take a big effort from the public and the police to get them arrested, but it's worth the fight. So, you know, what else can we do? We can't stop them. This is all over the world and every country as well. You can't stop these people. Their corruption, even before these lockdowns, was tremendous, and they should have been jailed years ago. So it's worth pursuing. It's worth continuing to fight for it. And you know, we really need the public to keep the pressure on the media and the police to keep promoting those arrest warrant videos. It's under the Crimes Act 1914. They're Commonwealth laws. they've got provisions there for arrest with and without warrant, but for the people to arrest without warrant and for the police to arrest without warrant. So if we continue the pressure as the years continue, it'll be worth it. As far as the elections go, well, I continue to go in elections as long as they don't jail me again. But that's why they want to jail me, to stop me being political and stop me going in elections. There's a possibility that the elections are rigged, the vote counting is rigged. So there's there's a toss up between, are people still voting for these political people, or do they have it rigged to some degree, Liberal and Labor and the Greens and Nationals, and it's very difficult to break through. So we can only try. We can only keep trying, and I think that we need to have a good look at the electoral system to see whether they have got it rigged or not, and that's obviously a serious issue of concern as well.
I think that there's too many people who are just happy with the somewhat status quo. It's very clear at the end of 2021, they had enough of the COVID lockdowns, and in 2022 they got sick of the masks and the vaccine mandates. So they pretty much forgave the politicians for everything. Now, you mentioned the media there. They are the major party's biggest cheerleaders, and this is what the Adelaide Advertiser wrote about you in September 2022. So they call you a far-right political hopeful, and it goes to mention that the court heard from 2 psychiatrists. They found you competent to stand trial, but incompetent to have committed the crime because you suffer from a delusional disorder there. And it mentions your lawyer, Trish Johnson, said a client did not deny importing the badges, but insisted she was mentally sound and would resist any attempts to declare her incompetent.
Well, for many years, I have, in my political website and in the media has reported my views on government psychiatry. They kill people with their drugs, and they steal through the public trust, and they lock people up by force, which is arbitrary imprisonment. It's a disgusting practice, and it needs to be abolished. So I reject anything they say about me. I'm a highly intelligent, moral person. I'm a Christian. I have a Master of Education specialising in leadership and management, and I have 2 other university degrees. I've been a qualified teacher for 27 years. I worked as a high school teacher in primary school for 20 years before I became political. So that's just a way to shut me up and destroy me and, defamation of my good character. I'm just a normal person. There's nothing wrong with me. And they use the psychiatry card all the time to destroy people's lives and their liberty and their rights and defame people. So I've had people all across the country contact me who've been locked up, patriots who've been locked up by police and drugged and all this sort of thing, and because they just want to shut you up. So yeah, of course I reject that, and I'm a intelligent, moral person. I've got strong mental health, and there's no problem with that at all. So I've rejected those claims and that argument, and I've advocated for years for their practices to be abolished, because they've been killing people with pharmaceutical drugs and ECT and disgusting practices like that. They can sterilise children under the state psychiatric laws. The politicians create state psychiatric laws. They call them mental health acts, but they can give ECT, psychosurgery. They can forcibly lock people up. They can forcibly inject people. They can sterilise children and adults under those state laws. It's just out of a Nazi textbook. So there's no credibility to their claims, and I've rejected their claims, and they're well aware of my views about their practices as well. So I got rid of that lawyer. I've got a new lawyer, so he's a lot better. And she didn't fight for my rights enough, and that was disappointing. But there's nothing I can do about that. So.
So when you were arrested in 2021, was it did they give you this full SWAT team treatment where they bashed down your door with guns, or was that much more they just knocked at your door early in the morning in the suits with their arrest warrants, whatever they have?
It was the early hours of the morning, and there was about 6 or 7 federal police officers. I was assaulted by the federal police in my home in Peterborough. I'm living in Adelaide now, so but I've got a house in Peterborough. I got assaulted. My head was bashed against the wall, and my arm was banged against the wall. I had a big bump on my head. I had a big bump on my arm, which I had to get a scan for. So they violently treated me, and you know, they gave me the paperwork, and then they just arrested me and carted me off in the back of a van.
Handcuffed?
Yeah, I was handcuffed, and they assaulted me. There's no doubt about that. They took me to a hospital to begin with, and so it's the federal police's fault that I was drugged to begin with. I was sent there for about 5 weeks, and then the next 5 weeks I was put in the psychiatric part of the prison. And then after that, I was transferred to the general women's prison population for about 6 months. So altogether, it was about 7.5 months that I was locked up. I was forcibly drugged against my will. I kept objecting over and over and over again.
How do they forcibly like drug you? Yeah. Is it like in the movies where they get the pills and like one of them forces your mouth open and the other one puts the pills? Is it like that? What sort of room do they put you in?
They give you the pills, and if you don't take the pills, they inject you. So I was forced to take the pills from the start, and then after a period of time, when I was in the prison psych part of the prison, they didn't force me to take the pills, but then they put me on a CTO, which is they inject you in the arm every month with a chemical compound. So it's they give you the pills. If you don't take the pills, they inject you, which is torture, assault, and attempted murder. And that's what they do. It's a killing practice, and for many years I've argued against it. There's also a federal government report, an Australian Bureau of Statistics report published in 2017, which has deaths listed under psychiatric practice in Australia, and it's something like 49.4% of the total deaths in that period, in a 13.5-month period, which was 75,858 dead Australians. Half the people that died in that period were drugged to death by the government under the psychiatric system and pharmaceutical drugging. So it's a killing machine, and if you look at the percentage of people that die of the total population, that Australian Bureau of Statistics report that was published in 2017, it was published before the excess deaths report of 2022, which is a recent report where up to 25,000 extra Australians died in that period. And those reports now, that's 2 credible reports out of the Australian Bureau of Statistics. They don't just make up those statistics from nothing. They've got government records, computer records. They've got the statistics from the government's own computer records to be compiling those reports and putting those statistics together. Anybody can go on the Australian Bureau of Statistics and find the report that I just talked about, either of those reports, and they're still published. And yeah, it's evidence of it's evidence that the police should be using to arrest those politicians, all the crimes that they're guilty of.
You mentioned you in a hospital and then the psych ward of the prison. Do they still use restraints during certain periods? And do they have do they design what type of cell are you kept in? Do they obviously you would never attempt self-harm, but do they design them so detainees, prisoners, patients, whatever they call them, can't self-harm? Are you alone in a cell?
The cells it's a prison. It's still a prison. The cells are just normal rooms where the mattresses are disgusting. You could probably I would never hurt myself, but someone could possibly self-harm in one of those if they had, or they don't let you keep property on you, so any sharps or anything like that. So it's very difficult to understand how people can try to commit suicide in a prison or a psych facility because they've got strict rules about what you can have and what you can't have. So it's not,
Like,
they
so,
don't,
so
they don't live
the,
escape or anything like that.
Jeffrey Epstein wouldn't be able to commit suicide by hanging in such a room.
It'd be very difficult to commit suicide by hanging in a room like that. Yeah, no, that you just don't have. Like the prison system, they don't have anything there that you could do something like that. With to harm yourself in that way. So when you hear of people dying in government facilities, I mean, I worked as a prison officer for a year before I was locked up. 10 years before I was locked up, I had a year off teaching, and I did this job in a women's prison for a year. And people die in prisons because they sit on them and they get murdered. And there's occasions where they commit suicide, and it's very difficult to know how they've committed suicide because they've got very strict rules about what you can have and what you can't have in a cell. So any deaths in government facilities is, again, evidence that's going towards the criminality of these politicians and their government workers. The deaths in the government facilities like prisons, psych facilities, aged care facilities, hospitals, deaths by unnatural causes, they build up and they build up and they build up, and there's never any accountability. So I've looked at those figures and said, well, that's another big body of evidence altogether that these criminal politicians and their government workers are killing the people.
And did you, like, it's going back to my question, do you have any cellmates? Like, do you meet other detainees, prisoners? Is there a common area?
In the women's prison, being in prison is very boring. It's incredibly boring. So I used to just walk and read, and I got a job in the garden, which helped. And you get put with another prisoner in the cell. So yeah, I was. You have to share with another prisoner, generally speaking. So it's usually 2 to a cell. And I was actually a trans lady was put in my cell, and we became friends. And I'm against the trans ideology, which is harming children and all this sort of thing. But this particular person was very nice to me, and I got bullied in the prison by a female prisoner, and she stuck up for me. So that was quite good. But you don't get a say in who you can have a bit of an input into who you are in the cell with. If you work hard with the guards to get that, try to get that sort of communication going with them. And most of the guards are pretty reasonable, actually. I found them to be, when I was locked up, to be reasonable towards me. So I didn't have any problems with that sort of thing. I got bullied by a female prisoner, and this other friend, prisoner, she helped me out, which was really nice.
So this trans prisoner who was, well, helped you. So it was a biological male trans woman in women's prison.
Yeah, that's right. It was a biological male, she transgendered to female. Well, that's the claim, and she was very nice to me. She was very nice to me, and but I'm generally against the trans ideology that being forced on the children these days is, mutilating children's bodies is horrific, and puberty blockers and hormone therapy and all that sort of thing. But I was lucky that she was a very friendly. She was a very friendly person, and didn't.
Do you think that, well, she should have been in the women's prison? Obviously, you had found her pleasant to deal with, but obviously there's this discussion at the moment that there's, or particularly in the UK, there's this rapist who claims to be a trans woman and is in a women's prison, and so
that's obviously problematic if there's trans people in a women's prison and they're committing rape and that sort of thing. That's obviously disgusting, and they shouldn't be in there.
Think that's so you think because you did, when you first learned that there was, obviously you had a they were very nice, like very nice to you. But like when you first found out, like what did you think?
I didn't really. I didn't think. I just took the person at face value, and it was a person and a human being, and you know,
Yeah, I'm just trying to get your perspective on the issue. So you think it should be like a case by case, like if there are, if like, what was this?
Well, in that person wasn't breaching anyone's rights. None of the women's. They weren't. She wasn't breaching any of the female prisoners' rights. But there are cases that. Well, I don't know what sort of evidence is being provided, but there are claims that transgender people in women's prisons are committing rape and all this sort of thing. But that wasn't the case in this case. So
you think that with regard
generally, I
to,
think
you think it should be done on a case by case basis?
in the case of this particular trans person, there was nothing she was a very pleasant person. She was a very pleasant person, a very kind person. So, but generally, I think, generally speaking, they shouldn't be allowed in the women's prison. No, generally speaking, I think, you know, unless there's a proven no breach, there's going to be no breach to the rights of the women there, or no sexual, particularly no sexual.
You didn't feel your rights were being violated in prison, but not by this trans woman.
No, that's right. That I got bullied by another female prisoner. So
actual biological.
Actual biological what? Sorry.
Well, I'm saying the woman who bullied you was a biological male.
The woman that bullied me was a biological female.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah.
Yeah, and the trans person was sticking up for me. So, so you know, it's basically a man wanting to be a woman, and I just saw her or him as a person that was like men are good people. There are good men and there are good women. But generally, I think they shouldn't be allowed to be in the women's prison, especially if there's sexual offences. If they've got some record of having some sort of sexual offences, obviously they shouldn't be in the women's prison at all. No, as a general rule, and it would be an exceptional circumstance that would allow that, in my view, because this ideology is. Not so much with consenting adults. I mean, what consenting adults do with their own time is their own business, and what they do in their own houses and that sort of thing. But where children are concerned, this ideology has been pushed on children worldwide, and that's disgusting. It's politically driven as well. It's coming from the politicians down through the myriad of people that are working in that professional field, those professional fields, which are allowing surgeries and puberty blockers and you know, hormone therapies, and all this is becoming a big industry, isn't it? So I'm totally against all that on a moral level, and brainwashing children and taking advantage of the vulnerability of children is just evil and disgusting, and we should continue to fight hard to stop it, for sure.
When you first got released from prison, because you then were subject to home detention. So how does that work? Do they put an ankle bracelet on you? How does it work in practice?
They put an ankle bracelet on my ankle, and there was a box there which was monitoring my whereabouts, and I was required to stay in the house, and I had to get passes to go out of the house to go to the shop and go to church, and they wouldn't let me go to church for a couple of weeks, which was really upset me.
Yeah, that would seem a violation of freedom of worship. I mean, what's the difference between allowing you to get food and worship, unless I don't know, they think that they think, unless they think that going to church is a bad influence on you, which would be quite shocking.
Yeah, well, they've just breached my rights. I shouldn't have been put on home detention. I'm not a dangerous person or anything. I'm a peaceful person. 99% of what I advocated for was the peaceful arrest of the political people. So, but they wanted me to suffer, and yeah, you have to get passes to go out to do this and that. And I was able to do some voluntary work as well in the community. So I got passes out to do voluntary work, and I've got a job as well because they don't let me. They won't give me my teacher registration at the moment. So I got a job working for Grain Flow, and I was taken off home detention in December. So when I got a job, that's when they took me off the home detention. So yeah, but it's not.
Oh,
It's the same as being in prison in your own home. Really, it's.
oh,
I mean,
we
you've got
all
to
had to go through
more
that
freedom,
here
but,
in Melbourne for 243 days, minus the ankle bracelet. But it was like a pass system. We could only leave the house for, what is it, four reasons. And like, how does the pass system work? Like, you still got the ankle bracelet on. How does that work?
I don't have that bracelet on anymore. They took it off in December.
No. I mean, like, when you said you got passes to go to the shops, like, did you like, it was the ankle bracelet was still on when you left the house?
Yes, it was still on my ankle when I left the house. So yeah, it just stayed on my ankle for 8.5 months. It was not a very nice thing at all. But you have to get permission to go out here and there, and yeah, the thing stays on your ankle. So it's a tracking device, basically. Just the same as like they want to track you with your phone, but this thing was around my ankle. So yeah.
And when you were put off home detention, you still had bail conditions. You can't use social media, though I'm allowed to interview you, and you can't leave South Australia. All this time, the justification for not granting you bail is that you would abscond. But even now, when you've got the most relaxed bail conditions, I mean, you haven't absconded. You're in your home in South Australia.
My lawyer is trying to get those bail conditions altered. So hopefully at the next hearing on the 18th of May, some of those conditions will be dropped. I haven't been able to upload a video for nearly 2 years. I haven't been able to tell the public that I'm safe and free and okay, except by an interview. I've got a few other interviews lined up as well, so that's good. But it's really putting a hamper on my political work because I'm not able to upload videos, and my Facebook got shut down just before I got arrested, so that wasn't very good at all. And yeah, so I need to be able to exercise my constitutional and moral and legal right to free speech and political communication, and the magistrates have been very harsh on me, and that's been unjust and unfair, and they really don't have a right to do this to me. It's my view, and I prefer that they be jailed as well. You know, of course, I can say that I want them jailed. I want the magistrates jailed, or the judges who've harmed me. Every government worker, every politician, every judge, every police officer who's ever harmed me over the last 10 years because of my political work, they deserve to be jailed. Whether it'll happen or not, I don't know, but I've still got a right to say it. I've got a right to say that what's done to me should be done to them, and I don't deserve to be treated this way. I'm a good person, and I've spent many years working for the rights, freedoms, and interests of the 26 million people of this country, and yeah, I don't deserve to be treated like this by these government workers. It's always the same. It's always the same people. It's not the public harming me. It's the government people harming me, and they should get the hell out of my life and you know, let me just get on with helping the people and continuing my political work.
And now, there's no way you're going to take any sort of plea deal, but the offences that you've been charged with, what's the maximum sentence penalty they could give you if they felt so inclined, if they found you guilty?
There's 3 counts of impersonating a Commonwealth public official, 2 videos and an email. And then there's 2 counts of importing a prohibitive import. That's the badges, which the legal
the charge sounds like they make it sound like you're importing drugs when it was just like it's a, like you could argue it's like it's no different to a toy badge that a child might have if they're playing cops and robbers.
Well, the legal provision says it's just to do with the coat of arms, the Commonwealth coat of arms, and it doesn't have the current Commonwealth coat of arms on it. So it should be dropped under that technicality. That's not a jailable offence, by the way, those badges. But the impersonating a Commonwealth public official, which is up to 2 years imprisonment under the district court rules and the law. The magistrates court, it's up to 12 months, but we want to have a jury and want to go to the district court. So they could technically try to put me in prison again, but it should be acquitted under the fact that I was making political speeches and trying to create an alternative government. I wasn't impersonating David Hurley. I wasn't impersonating anyone. I was trying to create an alternative government, and I was making speeches, and I was getting the people's support across the country. So that's the legal argument anyway, and we'll just see how that goes.
Now, if you beat these charges and are found not guilty, are you still going to pursue this strategy of issuing arrest warrants and trying to jail all the politicians, because they could do this to you all over again? I mean, lawfare, it's a strategy the governments use. Would you pursue this same course of political activism if it led to the same ordeal that you've just been through?
Well, they can't do it to me again because issuing those arrest warrants is not the charge. So yes, I'll continue to promote those videos, and I'll continue to call for other lockdown politicians, federally and state, to be jailed. So I'll continue to work towards that, because the charges aren't related to that. But in fact, I think that's what upset them a lot, although the charge is not related to that. It's specifically about the Governor General position. That's it. So I could have made those arrest warrant videos without claiming to be the Governor General or trying to create a new government in that sense. And now I wish I had done it that way, because they couldn't have touched me. And I didn't even know that there was an alleged Commonwealth offence of impersonating a Commonwealth public official. I had no idea that there was a provision in any Commonwealth or state law. So it wasn't a criminal intent or anything like that. So yeah, the arrest videos, it outlines the arrest powers that the people have to act to arrest, and the police have to act to arrest. Anybody in this country could have made those videos. And I'll continue to work towards the achievement of those objectives.
So what you're saying is that if other Australians declared themselves the Governor General in videos and that, they could get the same offence, the same charges as you.
That's right, exactly. If there is a charge, a Commonwealth charge, impersonating a Commonwealth public official, they tried to get the man in Western Australia, Marcus Jensen, with impersonating an Australian Federal Police officer under the same charge, and he got acquitted. So it got dismissed by the magistrate. And you know, that magistrate was very good, actually. Her judgment and her reasoning was very good. The magistrates I've had, unfortunately, haven't been very good, haven't been the same. It's that magistrate, Oliver, she talked about the presumption of innocence and other factors, which is said even if Mr. Jensen had gone with a group of people to arrest Mark McGowan still doesn't mean he's impersonating an Australian Federal Police officer and all this sort of thing. So he got acquitted, and that same presumption of innocence hasn't been applied to me because they've already locked me up, and before a district court trial is even conducted. So the presumption of innocence in this country is pretty much non-existent.
Oh well, we saw in Victoria, so many of the activists who were arrested, they got bail conditions, which, well, as what you've been through, like there's the expression, the process is the punishment, but it's more like that you've been punished before the process.
Well, the Magistrates Court in Australia for over 100 years has practiced arbitrary imprisonment. It's a very sad state of affairs in terms of the way that the judiciary has been conducted in this country. It's absolutely disgusting, where they arbitrarily imprison you with or without a lawyer, and so many people get imprisoned without a lawyer. And that's arbitrary imprisonment under the International Covenant of Civil and Political Rights. Everyone's entitled to a lawyer, supposedly, but the magistrates don't apply that. If they arbitrarily imprison you on remand, make you suffer, keep you locked up, and then afterwards they'll have some sort of phony trial with or without a lawyer. And they've got the police running the magistrates court on this side and the citizen on this side without a lawyer often, and the police sitting on this side. And people need to know and understand that that's exactly what the Nazis did. The Nazis ran courts and they ran them with the police. So where you've got police prosecutors, it shouldn't be run like that in the magistrates court. It should be no police prosecutor. It should be a lawyer. There should be a lawyer on this side and a lawyer on that side. And it should be presumption of innocence. But they haven't done that in Australia. They've just run it like a convict country, the convict country that it's been run like, and it's been over 100 years of that sort of thing, 200 years of that sort of thing. So it's disgusting. Those magistrates they've got a lot of blood on their hands, as far as I'm concerned, and a lot of judges as well, and stealing people's children through the court system and all this sort of disgusting thing going on. It's been going on for over 100 years, and it's just always the same kind of people. It's the politicians and their government workers, whether they be the police or the judges or the magistrates, or it's always the same people harming the public, and a small percentage of people. The people are 99% of the public, of the population, and then you've got the public over here, 99%, and then you've got the 1% who are harming the public all the time. And they just get away with murder. It's disgusting. So I think the magistrates court should be abolished, and we should have human rights courts, or Bill of Rights courts, as I've said in my political website, Bill of Rights courts for the people, and get rid of these magistrates, get rid of this magistrate system, this British system.
Well, we'll keep following your case, and hopefully, well, sooner rather than later, you get a fair trial. Thanks for joining me on WilmsFront tonight, and make sure that you continue to stay safe.
Thanks, Tim. I really appreciate it, and good on you. Well done.
This is Wilms.
And we're back live. Now, that is certainly an interview that you wouldn't see on Sky News or any mainstream outlet. Now, I was interested to hear Teresa's story, and you, as a mature audience, can make up your own mind about what you think of Teresa's manifesto and her views and her actions, but certainly what happened to her is quite shocking and abhorrent. Now, I'll be back again for another WilmsFront on Sunday evening, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, which, fingers crossed, will be on YouTube. But make sure that if you are not subscribed to the WilmsFront Odyssey channel and the Tim Wilms D-Live channel, so you can always catch either WilmsFront, Tim's News Explosion, Unshackled Productions on all the platforms live. We back up all of our shows on, well, definitely Odyssey, and we also do uploads to Rumble as well. So on Sunday evening, my guest will be the Honourable John Ruddick, MLC in the New South Wales Parliament. He was elected at the 2023 New South Wales state election as for the Liberal Democrats. He was their lead candidate. The upper house, a legislative council in New South Wales, is deadlocked 21-21 between the government-aligned bloc, Labor government-aligned bloc, and the opposition centre-right. So John Ruddick will he'll be a crucial vote at times if the Minns government wants to get through particular laws and reforms. But John Ruddick, representing a Libertarian Party, obviously there are a lot of things that he won't cut a deal on. We'll find out from him what his approach will be and what issues he will ensure to pursue during his 8-year term in the upper house. So I'm looking forward to that. Check out the latest reports from Tiger Mountain with Richard Wollstonecroft. So they are on the Unshackled's YouTube channel, and also there is a report from Tiger Mountain Odyssey channel as well, and is on Facebook as well. And of course, as always, Tim's News Explosion next Monday evening, 8:30 p.m. Melbourne time, on all of the platforms. So make sure that you subscribe, not just to one of our outlets, but to all of them. And I always post links to our lives on Telegram, Gab, Minds, MeWe, Locals, Parler, and of course Twitter. Make sure you keep visiting the unshackled.net to make sure that you keep up with our news articles, and it also features our Unshackled Productions archive. And I didn't have Entropy up tonight since it wasn't a live interview. So obviously there was no opportunity to ask Teresa questions. But if you want to support the work that we do here at the Unshackled and our Unshackled Productions, you can take out a premium membership at the unshackled.net/membership. So there is a bronze for $5 per month, silver $10 per month, gold $25 per month, and platinum $50 per month. That is it for tonight. Thank you so much for joining me on this extra night, and I will see you all on Sunday for WilmsFront with John Ruddick. Until then, stay safe, stay sane, stay free, stay warm, and I will see you all again soon. Thank you again for your comments and support as well. Good night, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to WilmsFront. Visit timwilms.com to view the archive of episodes, and keep visiting the unshackled.net to view all our shows, and to keep up with the latest real news and analysis.